Welcome to the Right Time Podcast. The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Happy Friday, kiddos. Welcome to the Right Time with Bomani Jones. My name is Clinton Yates, filling in here on ESPN Radio. We are presented by Progressive Insurance, and all guests on the Right Time appear via the Shell Penzo Performance Line. Get in touch with us through the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed, at Clinton Yates, at ESPN Radio. Right now, it's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Draymond Green is obsessed with LeBron James. You know how I know that? Because when Draymond Green and his team, the Golden State Warriors, won the NBA championship, all Draymond Green could talk about was LeBron James. If you tuned in yesterday, you heard me say this. It was very odd to me that he is this concerned with every single thing the King is doing after he got the ring. The Quickie T-shirt move was cool. You know, a little clap back for the Ultimate Warrior T-shirt that LeBron wore during the parade last year. But after all this, Dre is still talking. LeBron James, like I said, is not just renting headspace with Green. He owns a full city block in that man's head. It's wild to me. I really don't understand this. I mean, I get it. LeBron James is the most important player in the NBA. But, Dre, you got teammates. Go ahead and party with them. Forget about Bron. This is so bizarre to me. If I won a championship, the last thing I would do was spend my time talking about the best player on the other team. Yesterday at the parade, here's what he said about the concept of super teams. Draymond.
And can somebody give Bob some credit? They want to talk about super teams this, super team that. I never played on a super team. You started the super team, bro. I ain't joining the super team. Hey, Slim, I don't know what you just did, Slim, but you did something to them boys. We appreciate you joining the super team. I never played on the super team. That's crazy.
First of all, that makes no sense. All right. There is not suddenly a hierarchy of what is considered the right way to build a super team. I mean, are we being serious with that? Just because you had a draft situation to get your team, suddenly that's not as good as signing other guys? Last time I checked, it doesn't matter how you get the great players. The goal there is to amass talent and win. So to knock the Cavaliers for how they chose to do it, that just doesn't make any sense to me. That is beyond petty. Here's what LeBron James had to say on the Revolver podcast about that exact quote.
In 2003, the Lakers combined Karl Malone, Gary Payton, Shaq, and Kobe. Mm-hmm. In 96, when Jordan was retired, the Rockets joined Charles Barkley, Hakeem Olajuwon, and Clyde Drexler, all on the same team. Mm-hmm. But I don't look at it as I definitely didn't start the super team. Is that what he's trying to say? But I just feel like it's great that on the day that you're celebrating your championship, my likeness and my name is in your head. Well, yeah, I love that.
Drama. That's what we're dealing with in the NBA these days. Not the fact that two of the greatest teams we'll ever see squared off in the finals. Not the fact that the Warriors did not blow a 3-1 lead. And not the fact that Kevin Durant finally got his championship. We're talking about super teams. As a fan of the NBA and a lifelong sports fan, I must admit this is a little embarrassing. I mean, what are we doing? You got a good team. You put them together one way or the other. Last time I checked, that was what the whole point of sports is. I'm never going to understand these people who have all these judgments about whether or not guys stay in one place, find other people through whatever means they can, because apparently you can't do it one way or the other now, or these basketball hipsters are going to get on you. I just don't understand what the hate is here. LeBron James is a great player. He likes to get guys around him who can win. This is basic math. Draymond Green's out here complaining as if somehow somebody did something wrong or somebody hurt his feelings. Building it through the draft isn't any better than building it through free agency, in my opinion. If you think you're some kind of purist and that somehow makes sense to you, I don't think you like basketball that much, in fact, fam. Because what we saw in the finals, even if it wasn't the most competitive thing from a numbers standpoint, think about the players on that court. Think about who you saw. Think about what you got to watch. There have been some dog NBA finals. This wasn't one of them. Last year wasn't one of them. And the year before that wasn't one of them either. So let's do ourselves a favor here, guys and gals and everybody else. Let's drop the super team nonsense. And by that, I mean the judgment of the concept. Who doesn't want to be on a super team? I do. If I could just pick all the people I wanted to be around me who were the best at everything at all times, you think I wouldn't take that chance? If you didn't take that chance, you'd be a fool. Let's hear what Richard Jefferson had to say. Again, this is from the Revolver and Uninterrupted podcast.
One of the people forget, like when you went to Miami, right? You went to Miami. They had just lost in the first round, and you added Chris Bosh. I just remember when people were talking about super teams and this and that and putting people together. It would have been like if you had joined the Boston Celtics after you had lost to them. You know, and that's one of those things that, like, to put it in comparison, the Golden State Warriors have been the best team the last 3 years. They broke NBA records for the last 3 years, and they added probably the second best talent in the NBA.
He's incredible.
He's obviously salty. A little bit. I don't think RJ takes too kindly to what the Warriors chose to do in KD. By the way, you're listening to The Right Time with Bomani Jones on ESPN Radio. I'm Clinton Yates, filling in here on a Friday. Give me a phone call, 1-888-SAY-ESPN, 1-888-729-3776. But to me, this is all just small-minded foolishness. How one guy got where, whether or not it was cool to go to that team after they beat you. Sure, I understand the sense of sort of scruples or competitive spirit that might have existed at one point. But dudes are trying to win. I'm never going to knock anybody for trying to increase their chances at winning. 1-888-SAY-ESPN, 1-888-729-3776. Washington in Texas. What's good?
Hey, man, what's going on? The only thing that bothered me about this whole super team diatribe that Draymond Green is pushing out is the fact that they are a super team. Take LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers, for instance. If you take LeBron James off that team, those guys would barely make the playoffs, okay, period. If you remove any of those four guys away from Golden State, they're going to the finals. The only thing they did was they took a team and they added an extra dude to make them that much better. So I believe LeBron James is right. He is in Draymond Green's head. But he should also take solace in the fact that they needed to build a team that strong to get over LeBron James.
Thanks for the phone call. And that's an excellent point. That's an excellent point. They had to get better to beat LeBron. That was a very good phone call. They needed to do that. And I'll even add to that, and I'll say, if you took one of those four guys off that team, Draymond's probably the first one you take off. I understand that Klay didn't exactly have the greatest series of all time, and I understand that Draymond is a tremendous player. But I sure think he's a lot more replaceable than the other three that we're talking about, that being Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, and Klay Thompson. That's no knock on Dre. I like his game. But what are we talking about here? 1-888-SAY-ESPN, 1-888-729-3776. How you doing, Coach Francis?
I'm doing good. Clinton. Nice to hear you, man.
Appreciate it.
Listen, that caller that was on that just said Golden State had to get Durant to beat LeBron? No. Okay, that's not true. You can spin it any way you want. But if, just like you said, if you want to make your team better, make it better. Don't use a LeBron as an excuse just because Golden State got the Durant. I bet you if Cleveland had a chance, they would have got Durant. So let's not do that, okay?
Hold on a second. That logic doesn't add up here. When they didn't have Durant, they lost to LeBron in the finals. I mean, this is what I'm saying. Like there's proof here.
You think if Cleveland had a chance to get Durant, you think they wouldn't get him?
That's a separate discussion. I'm talking about the competitive balance between the two teams as they existed after the end of last year. They wouldn't have won this series without KD.
Do you think that Cleveland would have got Durant if they had a chance to get him? Yes or no?
Of course.
All right, then. So it ain't no separate discussion. It's the same thing. Stop hating on the league just because you like LeBron. You know who you like? You remind me of Robin Thicke, who used to sit in back of the bench at the Cap Center. That's what you remind me of, Clinton.
And you remind me of no one. Thanks for the phone call, Coach Francis. I'm just messing with you. Now, my point here is that they needed him, okay? And there's nothing wrong with that. They were required to get better, as proven by the finals in the previous year. Of course, Cleveland would have got Durant. That is immaterial to the discussion here between Draymond and LeBron about super teams. 1-888-ESPN, 1-888-729-3776. Joe in West Virginia, what's up?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just sick and tired of all the super team talk. I mean, the guy was a free agent. He had the right to choose where he wanted to go, and he wanted the best job available in his profession. I mean, tell me all these people wouldn't choose the best opportunity to make themselves better and not take it? I mean, you know, he made the team better, and he proved that he was probably the second best player in the world, and let him do a championship.
I agree 100%. Thanks for the phone call. If you don't want to be around winners, you know what that makes you? A loser. Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. Coming up, Paul George. We'll see if he really wants to be in Indiana anymore. I'm Clinton Yates, filling in for Bomani Jones on The Right Time on ESPN Radio.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Welcome back to The Right Time with Bomani Jones. My name is Clinton Yates, filling in here on a Friday. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance, and all guests on The Right Time appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Hit me up on the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed, at Clinton Yates, at ESPN Radio. Talking about super teams, LeBron, Draymond Green, whether or not it actually makes sense to refer to them as such. I don't really think so, at least not in any sort of pejorative manner. Super teams are the goal, if you ask me. 1-888-SAY-ESPN, 1-888-729-3776. Later in the program, we'll be talking to Basketball Hall of Famer Isiah Thomas. So look forward to that. Right now, though, Kyle in Toledo, what's good?
Yeah, I heard, I hear a lot of conversation about the Cavs and the Golden State adding Durant to get past LeBron and the Cavs, but Durant wasn't there 2 years ago when they beat the Cavs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And last year, I think the series went to Game 7, and Golden State was minus Draymond Green, and Curry had a sprained MCL. So
Draymond was out for Game 5, not Game 7.
It still missed the game, right?
Yeah, okay. I mean, that's on him. Look, you can't take away a win. Thanks for the phone call. You can't take away a win. It's not LeBron's fault Draymond got himself tossed. All right? Things happen. You can't just play everything out like it's on some sort of a simulator where everything is best case scenario. All right? 1-888-ESPN, 1-888-729-3776. Jay in North Carolina, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going, man? Appreciate you taking the call. The one thing I kind of wanted to bring up was the fact, yes, Draymond was out Game 5. That was his own mistake and everything else. But going into this year, didn't LeBron basically handpick the players that they brought into Cleveland for him to be able to take on the giant, so to speak, super team of Golden State? When he brought in Korver, when he basically handpicked every single player that was on that team. So if we're talking about super teams, he created his own super team while in Cleveland to counteract the super team that Durant formed, I guess, in Golden State that was already there.
Sure, but is that really fair? I mean, like, that's what is it? What else is he supposed to do? Is I guess what I'm saying. Like,
sure. I completely understand, but my one statement is the same thing he did in Miami when everybody was all on board with him when he was LeBron was hated going from Cleveland to Miami, then was in Miami and won championships. He basically has become almost like the Magic Johnson to where he's, to a point, a player coach to where he can basically pick and choose who he wants on his team. But at the same time, we criticize Golden State for going and picking up Kevin Durant, who was on a great team in OKC, but they weren't able to get it done because of the selfish play from Westbrook and everyone else that they had around KD.
Thanks for the phone call. Yeah, he's right. And this is what my point is. Who cares how these guys get here? Super teams are the goal. 1-888-ESPN, 1-888-729-3776. Angelo in Toronto. Hello.
Clinton, how are you, sir?
I'm well.
Quick question for you. Honest question. If Draymond plays in Game 5 last year, do the Cavaliers win this championship?
I don't think so, no.
You don't think so? So you're telling me that they need – so the question that gentleman made, you went out and said that they needed Durant to beat Cleveland. They didn't need Durant to beat Cleveland.
I think LeBron James is a better hold on. I think LeBron James has improved as a player. You can't just act like that doesn't happen. Teams grow, they learn their competition, and they improve. That's what I think.
And just like the Golden State Warriors would have learned on not letting that 3-1 lead slip. Draymond Green doesn't take that technical foul playing this year.
You know, if my grandmother had two wheels, she'd be a bicycle. Thanks for the phone call. You're listening to Clinton Yates filling in for Bomani Jones here on the Right Time on ESPN Radio. There are some stories that you just have to hear to believe. Introducing 30 for 30 podcast, all new stories from the producers of the acclaimed 30 for 30 series. Subscribe now in the Listen tab of the ESPN app or Apple Podcasts. My point is that once you get so far into some level of deep hypotheticals, this is all nonsense anyway. Dealing with what actually happened, though, let's do that. 1-888-ESPN, 1-888-729-3776. Chris in Boston, what's good?
Hey, what's going on, fellas? Listen, they're not a super team. They're an all-star team. That team has 4 all-stars that start, and they have 2 all-stars that are reserved. You know, no other team has more than 3 all-stars on our team. That team is equipped to win championships for the next 4 to 6 years. You know what I mean? So the league LeBron better get some help. He better get Melo. He better get a bunch of other all-stars because that's the only team that's going to beat that team is another all-star team like they got. That's simply it. And another thing, can we finally call Boston Championship City for winning 10 championships in 15 years? Thank you.
Yeah, that was a good call right up until the end. I mean, you were cruising down the highway. Then all of a sudden you saw a sign for something that you wanted to eat. You couldn't wait for the exit. Just pulled over to the side of the road. What was that? 1-888-ESPN, 1-888-729-3776. Zach in Indiana, what's up?
Hey, Clinton, listen. You got to realize what you said. You said that you can't play hypotheticals whenever the couple callers before said something about Draymond Green didn't play Game 5. So you can't hypothetically say that LeBron, you know, obviously he did get better. I mean, he's the best player in the world. I'll agree with all of that. But that doesn't necessarily mean the Warriors needed KD.
That's true, but I don't think these two things are mutually exclusive. That's what I'm saying. I think that both are the case. That's what my point is.
Okay, well, because, I mean, when you look at it, I mean, look, the Warriors weren't – those first 3 games, not only did they beat them, but they were bringing it to them first 2 games for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, now that was KD. Do I think it would have been a closer series without KD? Yes. I think maybe Game 6, Game 7, maybe some more competitive games. So I agree with you on that point. KD definitely put him a step ahead.
Let me ask you this, though. One thing that KD added to this team, too, as well, was a level of confidence. That, to me, was almost the largest thing that KD brought, was that they felt like they were a better team on top of the fact that he was such a large contributor. They had come off of a loss in the finals. That obviously had some psychological effect. With KD, they were a stronger psychological team, and I think that made a difference.
That's a very good point, and I'll agree with that point, too. You know, I just think, though, too, with you, that the Warriors were still a very good core. Mm-hmm. And then you take in all those other hypotheticals. What if Draymond played? What if Steph was healthy last year? You know, because the year before, who won?
The Warriors won, yeah.
You know, really, it would have been a really nice series this year to actually not have KD in it, just to kind of put that discussion to an end, and then have him join like this next year, and then go from there. You know what I'm saying?
It's a good point. Thanks for the phone call. 1-888-ESPN, 1-888-729-3776. One last one here. Albert in Bakerside. Where's Bakerside?
Yeah, hey, but the issue for me is the basketball that's being played, not really a superstar here or there or super teams. There's always been good teams. There's always been really good players. To me, as an older guy, I think the old school, the more grinded out, the old rules basketball, I think was a better game, and I think it was a better product as far as business goes, as the NBA as a business. But it's not, it's just not that way. Those two teams went through their conferences like a hot knife through butter. Back in the day, you had some teams that could pop up and knock off a good team. I think the product is more important. The game is more important than, all this BS about super teams or superstars.
Thanks for the phone call. I'm guessing that guy also thinks that the forward pass ruined football. Coming up, I sat down with legendary basketball player Isiah Thomas, and we chopped it up about quite a few things. I'm Clinton Yates, filling in for Bomani Jones on The Right Time on ESPN Radio.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Welcome back to The Right Time with Bomani Jones on ESPN Radio. My name is Clinton Yates, filling in here, getting you to the weekend. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on The Right Time appear via the Shell Penzo Performance Line. Nothing makes a spring birthday or anniversary more magical than 1-800-Flowers.com. Right now, 1-800-Flowers is offering an exclusive 24 for 24 offer, 24 multicolored roses for $24. That's only $1 per rose, fam. Go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. Now, those of you who've listened for a little bit know that I live in Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States of America. And I got a buddy who's got a program. It's called Hoop Sagrado. It's an outreach program and a cultural exchange program where he sends, for lack of a better term, underprivileged youth from this city to Guatemala as part of a cultural exchange program through basketball. He's been doing it for a while. Fantastic program, and it helps out a lot of kids' lives. Today, Hall of Famer Isiah Thomas is coming to speak at their yearly gala. So he was in town. I said, let me go check Zeke right quick, see what's going on with him. So earlier this afternoon, I sat down with him, and we discussed everything from the NBA draft to the state of the NBA these days, and it was quite a fun interview. I'll start with the NBA draft. There's a lot of point guards that are coming up into the league now, and as a position, it has changed a little bit from when you were in the game. What do you think being an NBA point guard is about these days, and who do you think is the best of those you've seen in from college ranks?
The biggest change in the position over the years has been it's a position now where you are required to score. And when I first came into the NBA, they were looking for pass-first point guards. And when I came in, I had the dual skill set of being able to score the basketball and pass the basketball. And during that period of time, I was heavily criticized for scoring the basketball and not just passing it. Now the position is you have to be able to score first, pass second. Back then it was pass first, score second. Or sometimes you wasn't even required to score
Okay.
because it was all about the big man. And when I look at the guards that are coming into this draft, you have some really good guards that are coming in that can score the basketball. But at the same time, the guards that are in the league now, the point guards that are in the league right now, they are so good. I mean, really so good that, these young cats coming in the NBA draft, I mean, you got Steph, you got Kyrie, you got Westbrook, you got Harden. You got guys that can really, really do it, and they can do it on a nightly basis. So the point guard position right now is going to be the hardest position to have success in my opinion.
One of the guys who is coming out is, of course, Lonzo Ball from UCLA, and he comes with not what I'd call baggage, but there is a certain element to what he's bringing as a result of his dad, LeVar. You've been in NBA front offices. What do you think about that situation in terms of, not necessarily an opinion on LeVar, but just how he's going to be able to come into the league and what, from your experience, what is that like looking at that circumstance in terms of his family?
So I've said this before, had social media and all that stuff been around when I was coming into the league, the way my mom was and the way my aunt, my brothers and everybody, I mean, it was they were 20 times worse than any of these families coming in. And, I look at it and I say, if you can play and you can get out on the floor, that's really where the games are won and lost at. The kid's a good kid. There's no off-the-court issues with him. His basketball playing inside the four lines has been superb and spectacular. And whatever is going on outside of that, it hasn't been a distraction to him thus far. And when you look at him, just his personhood, as a young adult, there's nothing sketchy in his background whatsoever. No alcohol, no drugs, no off-the-court issues ever. He comes from a two-parent home. All the things that you look for in terms of what success supposedly looks like. He fits the bill.
We're talking with Basketball Hall of Famer Isiah Thomas here, Clinton Yates on ESPN Radio. The NBA Finals just ended. It was an interesting series. The word super team comes up a lot. What do you think about the concept of that? Not in terms of Kevin Durant making that decision to go there, but this notion that there's really two teams in the NBA that are dominating. Think that's a good thing for the league, or do you ultimately feel like if it's good basketball, it's good basketball?
I believe in dominance, and great teams have always existed in sport, whether it be baseball, football, hockey, basketball. I mean, that's how it goes. And I don't know when the narrative changed that it was bad to have great teams.
Me neither.
But when we had to win in Detroit, the 86-87 Lakers, they were considered the best teams to ever play in the history of all sport. We didn't say, oh, we can't beat those guys. We had to go home and get better. And I look at the rest of the league and the rest of the NBA right now, you got to get better. You got to improve. And Golden State has set the bar high, and that only makes our game better, to elevate it, to try to reach that level of play to beat them. You may have to beat them with a different style, or you may have to copycat what it is that they're trying to do. But you got to find a way to beat them. And if you're just going to give up, then that's not the competitive way to do things.
There's the LeBron, Michael Jordan discussion, but there's also the discussion of the all-time great teams. You and the Bad Boys were one of those teams. You've played against some of the best teams in the history of the NBA. How good do you think the Warriors really are comparatively in the history of the league?
Depends on the rules that you play by. This era of basketball, they're arguably the best to play in this era under these rules. If you played in different eras with different rules, they would have to, change their style a little bit. They would still be good. They just wouldn't be as dominant.
I love LeBron James. I'm of the opinion that he is pound for pound a better basketball player than Michael Jordan. It's a bit of a hot take to a lot of people. I've heard you say things about this before, but could you please expound on where you think he is in the pantheon of great players?
I think he's the best to ever play our game. And it's not outside of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And my criteria for measuring a champion is different than some other people's criteria. My criteria is that not only do you have the responsibility to do it inside the four lines, but you also have a social justice mission outside of the four lines as an African American in this country. You have the obligation and the responsibility to speak for the voiceless. Now, if we're just going to measure by, points and rebounds, then that conversation is, not even debatable, because then it's just Kareem Abdul-Jabbar who's the greatest of all time. But if you're talking about, putting a social justice mission on top of that, then you're looking at Kareem and LeBron James.
Last thing I'll ask you. I'm from D.C. I'm a Wizards fan. John Wall is a point guard, and I'm a big fan of his. What do you think about how his game has elevated in the last couple of years and just who he is as a point guard coming from a point guard?
I think it's gotten significantly better. And I would say when he met Rich Paul and he got in LeBron James and around those guys, and he started changing his workout habits, his eating habits, his way of living, his way of thinking, and truly committing to becoming the best. Over the last year, 2 years, that's when his game has truly taken off to where he's in the discussion as, one of the top point guards in the league. He's got to keep getting better. He's got to improve his outside shot. And, those are things that are all correctable that he can do.
He's Isiah Thomas. He's a basketball Hall of Famer, and I'm happy to sit with him. Thank you, Isiah.
Thank you.
That was Isiah. We like Isiah. So, an interesting question somebody asked me on Twitter about whether or not the transitional point guards from the 90s, like who would those guys be? Who took us from those days to these days? I don't know. Probably Tim Hardaway, Gary Payton, Jason Kidd's on that list. I like thinking about old 90s point guards. That makes me happy. That's my kind of basketball. Shannon, who would you put on that list?
For me, Peyton would probably be at the top of that list. Just his ability to score, pass, and, of course, play defense. But, yeah, on the offensive end, scoring and passing, Gary Payton.
Yeah, the glove was good. Coming up, the Dolphins have set a team goal to have 100% voter registration. I'm Clinton Yates, filling in for Bomani Jones on ESPN Radio.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Tuning into The Right Time with Bomani Jones on ESPN Radio. My name is Clinton Yates, filling in here, getting you to the weekend. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance, and all guests on The Right Time appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Talking a lot about super teams. Hit me up. 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed, at Clinton Yates, at ESPN Radio. Y'all are going crazy at me in my mentions because I seem to believe that KD was a necessary requirement for the Warriors to feel confident enough that they could beat LeBron James and the Cavaliers. That can be the case, in addition to me thinking that LeBron James is the best player in the league. I mean, I don't understand what is so problematic about this. Get at me. 1-888-ESPN, 1-888-729-3776. Dave in Austin, what's up?
Yeah, talking about the super teams and the All-Stars, the Pistons had that a couple years ago with Rip and Tayshaun and them. And then LeBron started the whole super team movement when he left Cleveland and went to Miami to play with his buddies. Back in the 90s, like you said, everybody had a super team. Everybody had a big three. They were all good. The level of talent nowadays is just watered down.
Fair enough. But the point here is this. That was a good call. The reason why people were upset at the super team notion, and the reason why that term even exists, is because it was when LeBron finally had the agency to make his own choices. And that offends a lot of people's sensibilities when it comes to athletes. People think athletes are already too coddled, too rich, and too privileged. So when they're in a position to actually make decisions for themselves, that ticks a lot of people off. It's a very basic thing. It's not about the level of talent on the team, which is why the concept of super teams came up. It was because LeBron made a choice with some other guys, and people didn't appreciate that. 1-888-ESPN, 1-888-729-3776. Jay in the ATL, what's up?
Hey, what's up, Clint, man? I just got a quick question. How come it was okay for LeBron to go to Miami with arguably the third best two guard of all time, and then add Chris Bosh and add Ray Allen? People forget to say he did that because he couldn't get past Boston. KD couldn't get past Golden State, so he went and joined Golden State. It's the same thing. Just because he joined the team he couldn't beat doesn't mean anything. I'm pretty sure LeBron could have got Wade and Bosh in Cleveland. He would have did the same thing too.
Maybe, but you answered your own question there. It's one thing to go to another place to beat a third different team. It's entirely different to go to the team that beats you. That argument I do understand in this. That's a little weird. I get that. I understand why people have a problem with that. 1-888-ESPN, 1-888-729-3776. Clark in Texas, what's up?
Hey, bud, you know what? I agree with you. I think that Golden State looked at it. They won it once, and they thought, okay, we've got the pattern set. We've got the team. All of a sudden, it's 3-1, and they lose. And they said, okay, we need a veteran. We need somebody that can score. We need an anti-LeBron cure.
Yep. Thanks for the phone call. I appreciate it. Sorry, I'm up against it. And I think he's right. And this is what my point is. They were rattled after losing that Game 7 to LeBron. They had to do something, if for no other reason than their own psychological makeup. I'm telling you, that's an important part of this. You can see that due to the fact that Draymond Green just won the title, and he's still talking about LeBron James. That man is in people's heads because he's the best player on earth. Golden State Warriors knew that. And they had to do something to make sure they could beat LeBron. And when it comes down to LeBron's legacy in the NBA, that's what you're going to remember. Teams had to do stuff like that to make sure that they could compete with him because he's the best. Coming up, LeBron, Draymond, talking more about it. Is this the best rivalry since Celtics-Lakers? We'll find out. I'm Clinton Yates, filling in for Bomani Jones on The Right Time on ESPN Radio.
Thanks for listening to The Right Time Podcast. Please come back Monday for more. And don't forget to listen to The Right Time with Bomani Jones from 4 p.m. to 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
You're listening to Love Advice with Leanne. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, Leanne. Longtime listener, first-time caller. Why, in your professional opinion, do you never take my calls off the air?
Is this Carl?
Yep, it's Carl. I mean, we had a few dates. Everything was great. I thought,
Well, when you switch to Geico, you could save a lot of money on car insurance.
Okay, awesome.
You should call them.
I will.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.